Hello and welcome to Positive Fandom. I'm your host, Rrr Mmmm, and today we have MIKEYLITO with us for today's discussion. How are you today, MIKEYLITO?
I'm doing fine, RM. How's everything with you and the family?
Very well. Thank you so much for asking. I'm so grateful that you are here today to join us for today's discussion. And I have to say that today's discussion kind of stemmed out of the weekend when we were talking on Sunday brunch about a particular topic that definitely grabbed our attention for obvious reasons. And for
Almost
those of you
instantly.
almost instantly grabbed our attention, as you said. It certainly was something that caused us to raise our eyebrows, but also gave us other concerns as well. And hello to Tom Jr. Jackson, who's out there in Cosmic Jerry. Hello, gentlemen. I hope you are well. Um, I certainly do have to say that we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery, and we are going to be talking about their season finale for season 4 in regards to one particular episode and something that we both saw in the episode that we're still kind of thinking about and has made us certainly have different thoughts in our mind. Dionysus Larson, hello to you and welcome. Greetings from Greece, greetings from New York. I hope you are well and thank you very much for tuning in. So, what we're going to be discussing today has to do with Star Trek episodes, modern Star Trek Discovery, and people that may be cast on for certain roles in the show, very specifically real life politicians. And, I have to say, MIKEYLITO, before we even get into who, how this even came about, I did want to ask, is this the first time that a real life politician has been cast as a character or a role on a Star Trek episode?
Okay, as far as I'm aware, and I have done a little research since we talked about this yesterday on Sunday brunch. As far as I'm aware, no real life politician has been cast as a character on any Star Trek show. They have had real life people appear on the show in cameo type roles, a couple in speaking roles, like Stephen Hawking appeared in a speaking role as himself. He was supposed to be a hologram character of himself. I understand that King Abdullah II of Jordan appeared in a extremely small role where he just like appeared on camera and then walked off screen and what have you. And plenty of actors have done cameo roles, but no politicians that I'm aware of.
Right. And, I'm as far as I'm concerned, we certainly know that Star Trek is a show that presents different views and, kind of makes you ponder and, have a critical, thought about what the show is about. And a lot of times they have a message. And that's something that I've always loved about Star Trek, but they usually would do it a certain way. And, my concern is certainly the person who they decided to cast in the Star Trek episode is an actual real life politician who recently ran for governor. I think it was the state of Georgia, right, MIKEYLITO?
That's correct. And she's running again.
And this particular politician and activist is someone who is also putting their name on the ballot. Let me put it that way, putting their name on the ballot. Again, I guess for the same seat, hoping to win it. So the person that I'm referring to is a woman by the name of Stacey Abrams. And of course, for some of you who may not be aware, I don't, obviously, Dionysus, you're in Greece. I don't know if you're familiar with Stacey Abrams. She is a politician and she ran for governor of the state, I believe, of Georgia. Um, and she didn't win that race, but she certainly did turn a lot of heads with her political ideas, which is fine. You know, we welcome different political ideas on this show for sure. Um, and in some very unusual decision was made that Ms. Stacey Abrams would be cast as the president of Earth in the season 4 finale of Star Trek Discovery. Now, what made it so surprising for me is that I did recognize Miss Abrams. It was a surprise. No one knew about it until the episode actually aired. And it was such a surprise for me because I recognized her right away. And it's absolutely impossible. And MIKEYLITO, I certainly want to get your opinion on this. It's absolutely impossible to say that by having her cast as the president of the Earth on Star Trek, that Star Trek isn't attempting to make a political message or show their political position. What do you think about this, MIKEYLITO?
Yeah, absolutely. They absolutely. First of all, people need to understand. I am a diehard Bernie Sanders progressive, and anybody outside the United States, he's a very left wing politician in the United States. So, ordinarily and probably even currently, I would support Stacey Abrams as far as whatever position that she's running for. However, I have contended for a long, long time that all this discussion about this show and this movie and that movie are woke. I don't believe in it. It's a boogeyman that's been inserted into the fandom conversation about various content. And it's undeniable that when Stacey Abrams appeared in Star Trek last week, that that's what it was all about. It was inserting current politics into a entertainment show to show where the cast and the crew felt. Now, I honestly I blame the producer. There's several articles in the entertainment press uh, where Michelle Paradise, who is one of the producers of Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard, uh, is positively giddy about uh, casting Stacey Abrams as the president of United Earth, and would do it again if Stacey Abrams wasn't busy with all her political aspirations. So I, I, it just really annoys me that progressives would be this stupid because that's really what what it boils down to for me. That they they would give uh, their opponents talking points because it's absolutely clear that that's what they were trying to do. It's like, hey, everybody, see Stacey Abrams, you like her and what have you, and about the only redeeming factor is it's ticked off so many people that maybe they'll stop watching and we can be rid of Star Trek Discovery sooner rather than later. One can only hope.
Yeah, this is, and I have to say that a lot of times when we would see someone else appearing on the show uh, in that way, a lot of times that appearance was an appearance where the person might have been on, and it was kind of a novelty appearance. You
Can
know,
I just answer Mr. Larson for 1 second?
yes,
The
you
comment
may.
that you have on the screen,
Absolutely.
uh, Dionysus. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I actually consider Bernie Sanders middle of the road also, but the vast majority of Americans do not. Uh, Bernie Sanders is looked on very much so as like an extreme left wing politician. Uh, the last two times that he's run for president, uh, they've actually thrown around the word communist just because he considers it, he uses the phrase democratic socialist, and socialist is a bad word in the United States. Americans don't really speak English very well, so I just wanted to answer that comment. I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's fine, and thank you, Dionysus, for sharing your thoughts with us because we're here to hear your opinions as well. You make a really good point, MIKEYLITO. Um, I know that um, having her appear as somebody who's an active politician certainly does set a different tone for the show. And, since that probably is the first time that we've ever seen someone who, I guess, what some article pundits are saying, that she was put in a somewhat of a prophetic position as the president of Earth. I think that that was certainly something that kind of put a political spin, removing neutrality of the character, removing the president of Earth's neutrality just inherently by having a politician who does have a specific political point of view. And something that we've always enjoyed with Star Trek is that Star Trek has gone out of their way in most of their shows, perhaps not since 2009, but for the majority of the Star Trek that you and I have seen and enjoyed. Star Trek has always made a point that if there is some conflict, that they would show opposing views. They would present a scenario where if there were two point contentions or two groups, even three, who had different points of view, you heard them. And so, I have to wonder in regards to this, that by presenting or putting an individual who has a very particular point of view in a position as the president of Earth, you know, why, I'm just conflicted as to why they didn't present both sides or even more than one side to a political standpoint that they absolutely want us to be viewing, in this particular context. She's being presented as the president of Earth, the president of the
Correct.
entire planet. We haven't even discussed what other worldviews there may be. For example, in regards to half of the planet over in Asia, no one has even scratched the surface as to what other members may be feeling or what their opinions are. And I think that something else that it does is kind of like centralize that point of view as if the United States is the most important political view or political
Exactly.
viewpoints in a sense. And that really I thought was very interesting because um, I just was so confused by the message that I felt from it. It felt very, kind of tunnel vision. And from what I understand, the show casters are, as you mentioned, are interested in having her back. Um,
Exactly.
and they chose to keep the character nameless, so we don't know who this character is.
Oh no, no, no! They've given her a name off stage. She's President Stacey.
So you what? I'm sorry?
In
Really?
in in one of the articles that I read today in preparation for the stream,
Uh-huh.
uh, uh, Michelle Paradise, the aforementioned producer of both of the current live action Star Trek shows, she said, "Well, she doesn't have her name, but let's call her President Stacy."
I mean,
the major interview with her is I'm talking about Michelle Paradise is in
mhm,
IndieWire
mhm.
is the article that I'm referring to. So if people get a hold of IndieWire, then if
Well,
they're interested, they can see who I'm talking about.
we're going to talk about this so much more, MIKEYLITO. Hello, Darth Plato. Hope you are well. I'm
Hi,
trying to share.
Darth.
Hey, and Epstein's ghost. Hi, hail to you
Hello.
all. New viewer, I'm digging the content. Well, thank you, Epstein's Ghost. We are so grateful to have you here. Latoya T from Coco Tulip, and a very good friend and
Hello.
fellow PGS member. Hello, Latoya T. So glad to see you here as well. Scotty R37, um, mentioned I didn't even know who that lady was until she was pointed out to me. Um, yeah, that's very interesting, isn't it, Scotty? And I think that it was a surprise. They didn't tell a lot of people that she was going to be coming on for a number of reasons. Um, and as Michaelito says, President Stacy, absolutely. Um, Dionysus Larson says, entertainment is still entertainment. I feel people should read and learn philosophy so they can interpret art and not the other way around. And Darth Plato says, the problem is that after World War II, the view crystallized that the nation state is not the end product of the states in the future. The replacement view that arose decades ago was one world under the UN mandate. That is very deep, Darth Plato. And I'm not going to, I thank you for sharing that. That is incredibly insightful, thoughtful, intelligent. Thank you for that comments. And I also want to welcome Ion to the show. Greetings to you, Ion. You know, Mikey, I think that they've kind of crossed the line with this episode for me. And the reason why I feel like they've crossed the line is because, they've discounted, the views, as far as I'm concerned, of what half of the United States is, what is important to half of the United States. And despite political views, despite what we know as a nation that has different views, they presented, it's almost like they presented foreshadowing that everybody else's views are may or may not be around anymore. um I just it just felt like it was kind of an unfair promotion for me. But I also
Well,
felt that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, there's a couple of things. First of all, they're forgetting that they have a global audience. So they're inserting our politics into, you know, the global view. It's like, well, you may not know what's going on over there and what have you, but this is significant to us. And pretty soon you're going to see all kinds of uproar from the states and what have you, but you don't have to pay attention because it really doesn't mean anything to you. It was completely unnecessary. It was completely unnecessary. I have to introduce some information
Yes, please introduce it.
because our friend Paul in Long Beach left us a time bomb yesterday about Patrick Leahy, who's the Democratic senator from Vermont.
Okay.
He has appeared in not Star Trek, but he has appeared in almost every Batman film that he could get his hands on. Uh, I have a list of his credits here. He was in Batman Forever, Batman the Animated Series, Batman and Robin, The Dark Knight. In Batman and Robin, he played himself. He was in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, The Dark Knight Rises, and some movie that's completely unconnected with Batman. My Wife is a Vampire. Don't know what that was about. So I did a little bit more research, and I came up with two more names of politicians that appear in entertainment content. and of course, these
Okay.
are American politicians.
Yes.
One is Al Franken, who most Americans know from Saturday Night Live. He has a rather extensive set of credits, and he was a Democrat from the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, I remember
And
he
the
did
other,
Stuart
and the other
Pauling
one,
for a long time too.
I have a whole page on the other one is, and everybody will remember this guy, Fred Dalton Thompson. He played Arthur Branch on the Law and Order shows. He appeared in Die Hard 2 as one of the guys in the airline tower. He was in No Way Out. I just want to see whether or not there's a couple other familiar ones. Well, he Wise Guy television show, Wise Guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Roseanne. I actually and he was a Republican from Tennessee, so they did have a Republican on, and I actually enjoy his performances. Fred Dalton Thompson, he's very good. They are so there have been other politicians that do things uh, in entertainment content, but still, this one with Stacey Abrams feels like a deliberate insertion of uh, 2022 politics and advocating one point of view over another. And you mentioned a couple of times that Star Trek uh, usually presents all sides. That's something that brings honest, dramatic tension to a story, something that Star Trek Discovery is sorely lacking.
Yes, and I think it shows a lack of integrity, just even in the show itself, which I didn't think that I was ever going to say about any Star Trek show. Hello, S Beam. He says, "Good old Minnesota." It's very good to see you here, S Beam. We're so glad that you showed up for the stream today. Um, yeah, I have to say that I never in my life thought that I would ever think that. But, as I am looking at politics just in general, I felt like it was it shows an incredible amount of favoritism towards one side. And because the show in its 4 seasons has continued to do that more or less, I felt that they almost had a responsibility if they were going to. This show could have elevated itself because they could have gone ahead and showed the political side they wanted to. But had they showed opposing sides, this might have given the show the edge that it needed and, kind of elevated it into a more mature, responsible kind of show, in my opinion. But I was just, I kind of feel like a lot of people might watch that and unless you know who she is, I guess you wouldn't know that what she stands for, let's say political wise, which she is entitled to stand for whatever she wants. I'm not necessarily placing any sort of fault on Miss Abrams. I just am questioning the particular integrity of the show in the sense of not allowing others to have a say in this sort of the stakes of this galactic show, which it is.
I
Um,
don't think they gave any thought to it at all. At all, it's just like, ooh, Stacey Abrams, she's a hero of ours, and what have you. Let's put her into it because from the way that I understand the stories that I've read, uh, Michelle Paradise, again the producer, uh, couldn't say whose idea it was. Only that when they finally decided on Stacey Abrams, they called Alex Kurtzman, someone we all know and love, and uh, said, "What do you think of Stacey Abrams?" And he sent back a text, all exclamation point. So, in order for them to use this for a dramatic tension, they would have had to introduce the character much earlier. I'm not even certain that we know why United Earth left the Federation. All we know is that they, they were rejoining the Federation just like Navarre was rejoining the Federation. Their entire plot structure just really disturbs me because it seems to have no basis in reality. I mean, another thing that bugs me is how everybody that works on the bridge is a commander. That was not true in the past. I doubt if it's true in the present. The only character that is not a commander is a lieutenant. He's the communi- He's not the communications officer. He's the substitute communications officer because the other guy is off doing a special project, and the one that's normally there is a commander. So the entire bridge crew is commander. So many chiefs. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and Guagnar says not sure if this would be considered, but General Michael E. Ryan appeared in Stargate SG-1. He was a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and thank you for that input, Guagnar. We certainly do appreciate that. Um, yes, this is a good question, MIKEYLITO, and it is something that we have to question going forward. Will they continue to add other political candidates into the show as perhaps maybe all of the leaders on Earth? And if so, which ones will they choose? Will they continue to choose members from specific parties only? These are all kind of decisions that I think why they would normally have someone who isn't affiliated with any political party to star in a role that would be as important as this one. And considering that I've been reading articles that have said that by casting her in that role, it's very prophetic. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, are they suggesting that that's what she will be? This is going to another level because I don't think there's ever been a Star Trek episode where they've taken somebody and kind of proclaimed that they may or suggested that they may be a ruler somewhere somehow in any fashion anywhere on Earth. This is completely new, definitely very different from what I know Star Trek to be because it kind of limits the possibilities, in my opinion, knowing a person's political stance if that's what they're just going to stick to. But I have to say that I was just shocked by it. I'm still very shocked
Another
that
article I read said it was
she's in it.
practice.
Right, that's the prophetic point of view that they're saying that, or maybe hopeful thinking, and good luck for her to do that. It's just that it feels as if they're missing so much of the political spectrum, and I'm kind of curious as to other people. I don't know who's out there or who's watching this, how they feel, what the political spectrum is thinking when the appearance of that individual is not countered with the appearance of someone else with equal stature, let's say. Why not the governor of why not the governor himself, her or herself? I don't know who the governor of Georgia is, but why not have that person on? I ask. I'm kind of
Hi,
curious.
Keely.
Hey, Keely Chow, how are you today? Thank you for joining us. Guys, we're talking about real life politicians on Star Trek and, this groundbreaking decision to have, this former gubernatorial candidate, Stacey Abrams, on Star Trek and not only just on the show, but cast as the president of Earth in the show, and also projections that she will also be cast in the future as the president of the Earth. So, I just wanted to know what thoughts were that about that in the chat as well. And so as I was watching the show, um, it's clear that Stacey Abrams did a good job. She walked in, she did her two lines. It wasn't a lot of lines that she had,
Right.
but there was an overwhelming amount of support to have her in there, and not one of the cast members, from what I understand, thought that it was strange that she would be cast in that role, nor did they say, hey, do you think we should have some other representatives of politics in here, since we have Stacey Abrams, who it has been quite verbal politically in her state with her political views. Um, and Lord Todd says, "Are we still watching Discovery?" There are a lot of people who are watching that show.
Some of
Um,
us, we can't help it, Lord Todd. We can't help it. We love Star Trek. This is the one thing that I agree with Rob Burnett about. I've been watching Star Trek. He always talks about he used to watch on Channel 11 in Seattle. It was the exact same thing that was going on in New York. 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. on WPIX TV. It was Star Trek, which what we now call Star Trek the original series. It was on every single night. It might have been on during the weekends too, but it was certainly on Monday through Friday. And when they got to the end of the 3 seasons, they would just loop around and start it all over again. The only episode that we did not see on at 6 o'clock Monday to Friday was The Cage, which is not really an episode. It was the initial pilot. The rest of the time, it was every night. It was almost appointment viewing for a youngster back in those days.
well, it's pretty much it's pretty much a campaign advertisement. And I don't believe that there has been I'm trying to think of an analogous campaign advertisement for a prospectful governor, someone running for governor in television. And I can't think of one just off the top of my head, and I'm sure there have been a few. But the other thing
Well,
that I
Mario Cuomo's COVID announcements probably was one, but that's a different story.
the other thing that I think is very interesting is that it does seem like it goes against what Star Trek that we know to be. And that was something else that I find, somewhat saddening in a sense, because, we are expecting a different type of representation. But, I'm almost wondering whether or not, to be on a show like this, whether they're supporting her campaign monetarily and whether there's a conflict there. There's all sorts of things to think about because this is absolutely one of the most boldest displays of support for a candidate I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right,
I
on an
mean,
entertainment show, definitely.
yes. And Dionysus Larson says, well, I'm extreme left. So her being one for me wasn't an insult to those on the right, but no true leftism. I don't like the CP USA, but Joe Sims is a leftist. Okay. Um,
The problem is that it really isn't an insult to one side or the other. It's just that it gives uh, what passes for the right in this country excuses to come up with nonsensical stuff. For example, what was in the National Review, where they insisted that the producers of Star Trek would never put Donald, I won't say his last name because it's his brand, uh, as the president of Earth on Star Trek. And I'm going like, that's first of all, it's a ridiculous thought, but it was a ridiculous thought that she was on. A couple of other conservatives, most notably Ted Cruz, had a problem with it and is screaming and yelling about it. And it's a discussion that doesn't need to be had because they could have simply cast another actress as the president of United Earth and moved on. In a lot of the earlier movies and everything, there wasn't even a United Earth. The Federation president was like the one that ran everything, and all of a sudden now we're introducing all these little fiefdoms all over the galaxy. So
Yes, and Dionysus Larson says, "Sorry, her being on wasn't an insult for me, and it probably is an insult for anyone." What I noticed, Dionysus Larson, is that if you're going to have a political person on, then have several political individuals representing all sides. As far as I'm concerned, that would have been a more fair representation. I find it very hard to believe that everybody would be united under one political party or belief on Earth. But that is what they are suggesting, at least there, with an actual politician who has specific beliefs. So for me, if they were going to bring her on, why not bring on other people who also have different political views? And then really make it into something that would be relevant and perhaps more representative of what the United States is actually like, because there are other political views out there. You know, we don't agree with all of them, but they do exist and they're part of this country. Let alone the world, as you said, MIKEYLITO. You know, we haven't even spoken about political views worldwide. We have no idea. I don't have a great idea. Maybe you do, of what other people in other countries are thinking. And that representation, I think, was, you know, very, very bold and direct. Keely Chow says, "I'm in the fandom Menace Ultron. I'm everywhere. There are no strings on me." Okay. Howdy. Howdy, KEK44. Howdy to you. Good to see you. Lord Top says, "I don't care that she was on. Oops. I don't care that she was on. I didn't really know who she was. Her little bit of acting was awful, but not surprising." Darth Plato says, "Has she actually won anything?"
no.
No, no. But
And
she is,
again, this is another talking point because uh, the secret, uh, yes, the Secretary of State of Georgia has actually likened her to Donald. I won't mention his last name because she insisted that her vote was stolen when she ran for governor, which is exactly the same that the previous occupant was talking about. So it's sort of like a local version of the big lie.
right, right. Hello,
So
Mary
again, this is
Awareness.
it's what I was saying before. They're just by doing things like this, they're just giving talking points for stuff that's going on in this country that nobody else cares about.
Exactly. Exactly. And Ion says season 4 had the most retcons I've ever seen in a show to do to its own self, to their new canon they are trying to make. It makes you laugh that they do not pay attention to their own storyline. Yeah, that's a very
I definitely agree.
yeah.
I wonder if anybody's upset about the science because I'm upset about the
Oh,
science
and
as
they
well.
that yes, there's a lot. There certainly is a lot that we could certainly point out um, about it. Um, and let's see. Uh, Guardnar says, "I don't have an issue if a politician appears before the political career afterwards, but during could be considered part of a political campaign." That's exactly what I thought it was. You know, and I'm almost wondering whether she made contributions to the show. Um, could this be something that politically could be a question about campaigning, MIKEYLITO? I mean,
It's
since
a
she
it's an
is
it's called an in-kind political contribution, and so in other words, no money changed hands. Although I don't know if that's true or not, but her appearance on the show has some monetary value, and so therefore it's the same thing as giving money. So it's called an in-kind political contribution, and that has been discussed in the media the last few days.
Yeah, it is something to think about. And I think that it would have been quite a shock, or maybe just really interesting, if they had brought in her opponent or someone who has, you know, maybe an opposing view with her. Would have been amazing to see both of them on the stage, you know, to say this is representatives from Earth. And it had her and maybe some other individuals from different points of view that would have been like, whoa. I think if we had seen something like that, Mikey Lito, we would have said, what? Like, we would have known it was a political message, but it would have been maybe a more even message. And I don't think anybody could have said that they were favoring one side or the other if you have both messages or several messages or several leaders on at the same time. But you can't, it's very hard to kind of say, not you, but it's very hard for a person to kind of look at this and say that, I'm not favoring this person as a candidate going forward. It's incredibly hard to say that. I mean, are they denying? Has the show, do you know, said that this has nothing to do with her running for political office, Mikey Lito?
No, not that I've read. Not that
Yeah,
I've read at all.
yeah.
Like Tom is saying now, uh, she
Ooh,
is, and again, I don't necessarily blame her. I blame the producer.
that's
She
right. We
is
don't have
a
anything against
huge.
Stacey Abrams at all. We certainly don't have anything against her. This is not about her as an individual.
She is a huge Star Trek fan. She has when Mr. Biden was running for U.S. president, she hosted a fundraiser that was centered around Star Trek. So supposedly she is a huge, huge fan. I don't doubt it. So I can understand if she was approached that she would want to do it. From what I understand, again, reading articles, uh, she contributed ideas about her wardrobe, not about her lines, but about her wardrobe and how she would appear. But other than that, everything was done by the producers. I don't even blame the cast because the the reality is a lot of the cast, especially a lot of that cast, is somewhat leftist. So they were probably excited to see her and what have you. It was just a bad decision, my opinion, that she would appear because there was no, if they wanted to use her, then they should have set up her appearance much earlier in the season and given some counterbalance for the obvious political things that were going to happen afterwards.
I agree with you, Mikey. And I think that there could have been different ways that they could have had this approach that could have made more sense in context and kept her away from this sort of overly exaggerated political focus, which it is undeniable to have her associated with, let's say being the president of Earth. They certainly are kind of, gearing this up for perhaps a presidential run. I mean, this is not something that I made up in those words. By having her in that role and the sense that it could be prophetic, is implying that. And that's great if she decides to run. Great for Stacey Abrams. It's just that from the way and the tone of the show, um, that also was something that I think it will alienate a lot of people going forward looking at this. Um, so here it says, oh, okay. Um, Guagnar says, could it be considered a violation of the equal time rule? This is something that I was curious about myself. Is that, maybe it could be. They've done away with so many of these acts that used to be in politics and in journalism, where if you, and maybe it is the equal time rule. So I apologize if that's what you're referring to. From what I understand, it's supposed to be if you're doing a debate and there are multiple sides of the debate that you need to state those sides to give them equal share of time or at least discuss them and acknowledge them. But we're actually
Well,
in
I
a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
well I what I will say is the FCC has done away, and this was a while ago. This wasn't recent. They did do away with the fairness doctrine, which is one
Right.
reason why we have these wildly divergent cable networks that we have in the United States. Um, I don't know that there's an equal time rule. I could probably do a quick search to see whether or not there is one or not.
Okay, I think Gornar did just mention to us here, and I didn't see that comment. He says that it specifies radio and television broadcast stations must provide an equivalent opportunity to opposing political candidates who request it. Well, I don't honestly, MIKEYLITO, I don't think anybody's going to be wanting to be on that show, just to begin with, just because of how overly um, favoritist they have been to one direction. I think that a lot of politicians would probably shy away from it. Um,
And
so
she
I
also
don't.
didn't give she didn't make a political statement. I only think they would be given that opportunity if she made a political statement. And to a certain degree, what we're saying is just her appearance is a political statement. How
Yeah,
they
I have
handle that, that's up to whoever. From what I understand, David Perdue and the current governor of Georgia, whose name I can't remember right now, are running in the Republican primary to go up against her. But how they handle it, and they would only need to handle it in Georgia. Who knows? Maybe a special episode just for them.
Well, then, do you think, because we've seen this, MIKEYLITO, are we going to start to see a trend of political, candidates, or maybe even people who are in? I don't know whether they're allowed to appear. I don't know what the rules are for politicians. But if given the opportunity, do you think we're going to see much more promotion in shows like Star Trek? In other popular shows, is the Lord of the Rings, the new not Lord of the Rings, the new Amazon show, are they going to insert some sort of political politician in that? How far is this going to go? And I mean, what do you think, MIKEYLITO? Are we?
I can only hope not. Uh, if you want to work into your content some kind of political thought, then you need to do it in the way that it used to be done. You need to work it into the story. You need to present opposing viewpoints, and you can have it turn out any way that you want it to turn out. But there really shouldn't be proselytizing in in content, direct proselytizing. Oh, Groucho Marx is here. Hi, Groucho.
Oh, hi, Paul from Long Beach. Welcome to the show. Always glad to see you here. And let's see. Darth Plato says, forget elections, give me Thunderdome. Two men enter, one man leaves. Definitely something to think about. So here, Paul in Long Beach says, why is it a political statement? She's not employed by the government. That's a really good question, Paul in Long Beach.
As soon as her visage appeared, I took it as a political statement.
As did I. I certainly did take it as a political statement. The show specifically cast her in a very specific role in a show that traditionally doesn't cast anybody who's a politician in roles like that. So this
I
is the
thought it
first
was
one.
overt, and I thought it was in your face.
That's right. It was overt. It's in your face. She is also an activist, which she doesn't have to be employed by the government to be an activist for her party. And that is something that she is proud to wear. And we are happy for Miss Abrams. We wish her all the best. This certainly has nothing to do with our opinions about Miss Abrams at all or her political views. We are talking about the show and the showrunner's choices to cast a person who is an activist and a former gubernatorial candidate and someone who wants to run as a governor now, in a role in where she is actually portrayed as the president of the earth. And so, since it's not customary for us, it's unprecedented for us to see activists and political candidates in any actually TV show anywhere. Honestly, it's not that common. But in Star Trek, it's particularly something that we're not accustomed to seeing, and something we really haven't seen this before. She stands for a lot, and she has made it very clear to her and her constituency, regardless as to whether she's employed or not, that she is an activist for her political party. So she is employed somewhere under some sort of political umbrella, which she's proud. And we, as I said, we are proud for Miss Abrams, and for all the political candidates out there. We certainly don't have anything against those guys. But
I think it's important to say that, just because somebody expresses political views that we agree with, that doesn't mean that it's okay to put them in our entertainment content. Um, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
well, that's a good point, and it has to do with insertion, which many of us have been talking about and been upset of this insertion policy, where that's sort of this, and it is self-prophetic, when what we're seeing producers and writers self-insert characters that are essentially themselves or things that they desire into IPs that don't necessarily deal with that element. So, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something in the new Rings show on Amazon if they wanted to. If they wanted to, they could add it there. I mean, we could continue to see a lot of political pundits or even political candidates showing up in shows like this. And, we could just, I certainly wouldn't see it as something that was non-political, especially when that your profession is to be a political activist. So it's very hard to kind of escape that uh,
She's very
association.
active, and people. I'm surprised that some people are saying that they didn't know who she was because she was very visible during the presidential election. Uh, she had a lot of people supporting her, including the ever-present Oprah Winfrey, uh, supporting her on a national stage. And uh, again, she's supporting things that I support, like universal voting. But that doesn't mean, well, I know what my train of thought. People come to entertainment to get away from, especially in a show like Star Trek, things that are going on in real life, and that's one reason why political viewpoints have been incorporated into storylines. I want to emphasize storylines in the past. Just to just blatantly put somebody out there and what have you, it's really kind of annoying. I was very annoyed. Uh, Paul, we mentioned Mr. Leahy earlier. Uh,
Right, right, you did.
uh,
Yes.
and I also mentioned, just for Paul's benefit, that I also mentioned Al Franken, uh, Fred Dalton Thompson, and I forgot to mention also there was another one from Minnesota. I forgot the back page. Jesse
Is it Al
Ventura.
Franken? It's not Al
Jesse
Franken.
Ventura. Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura, right, right. Ion makes a very interesting comment. He says, this just shows that this is 100% no longer a show, but just a platform for them to use. And of course, I'm assuming that Ion means politically a platform. I don't know how much more clearer to have an activist as vocal as Stacey Abrams on your show certainly is meant to send a message as she is cast as the president of Earth.
I
um,
actually view both shows as comedy shows. They're more of a comedy show than their Star Trek cartoon shows.
right.
Lower Decks. Um, all of their shows. It's a completely different platform because it's not Star Trek. Uh, the lead character in Lower Decks would never be in Starfleet. She would have
Right.
been kicked out a long time ago.
Yeah, she would have
Uh,
been dishonorably discharged or something like that.
there's absolutely no science that's going on because here we have the dark matter anomaly that is so huge that we don't even know actually where Navarre is, but however large this thing is, it's affecting Earth, it's affecting Navarre, but there's been no mention of what's going on Luna, which is the moon for the rest of you. What they did mention Titan, they threw it in the last episode. Uh, what about Mars? Is Mars still on fire? Apparently, Mars is still on fire after like 1,400 years and what have you. The whole thing is completely ridiculous. And Star Trek Picard, we're up to the third episode. We don't even know what Picard supposedly did in the past that changed everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Darth Plato, and I'm going to comment on that in a second, MIKEYLITO. Darth Plato says it doesn't matter what your skin color or gender is. What matters is whether you're fit for office. Kamala and Stacey are manifestly are not. Pelosi, I could see. And thank you for sharing that, Darth Plato. We are reading everybody's comments. We certainly do welcome differing opinions here because we like to hear differing opinions here. But we didn't see a differing opinion on that show when, Miss Abrams just came out that way as an activist that we know. That was very one-sided. And, it certainly did send a message to me. Okay. And Tom is saying if he was talking to Dionysus Larson. And Guarnar says, would it have been okay to have her show up as herself or a duplicate of herself as if it was a historical context like Abraham Lincoln and the Savage Curtain? Well,
Why?
something.
Why? What's the reason for the appearance?
Yeah, it would have to be something that needed to be said or done. Ideally, anybody could have played this role as the president of Earth. It could have been an artificial intelligence robot that could have been the president of Earth. It wouldn't, that could have been fine too. As I've said, for me personally, I feel like they needed to show another point of view because they have been directing in one political direction for so long. But I think, she's just getting free. She is getting free publicity for this. There's a lot of articles written about her now. And eventually those articles are going to go away from her appearing on Star Trek Discovery as president to saying, is she running for president? To saying, how has this affected her campaign? Will she wear the uniform at a campaign? Will she wear that uniform out? Will she do things like that? Will she start to refer back to the show during her campaign? These are questions that I'm kind of curious about, and how far that maybe some of our future candidates are going to start to do this. Maybe this is just the beginning. In Picard, MIKEYLITO, maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe we'll see some more political candidates in the Picard series going forward. What do you think, MIKEYLITO?
I don't even know. I don't even know what is happening in Picard. I'm I have wanted to see Avery Brooks come back in a Star Trek show since Deep Space Nine went off the air, and I'm going like, Avery, hold down, don't come back to this show, please don't come back to this show, because again, I don't even know what's. I mean, I understand from week to week what's happening on Picard, but we are going to have the third episode this week, and we still don't know what it is that Picard was supposed to have done that changed everybody's future. Not that it matters, because since Discovery exists, obviously it got straightened out. So it doesn't really matter, does it? Everything that happens on Picard, it's just for our entertainment, and it's not too entertaining. So
Well, I also have to ask myself that if she is, from what you and I have been discussing and from what I have read, they want to bring her back for season 5. Now, can they do that can a governor of a state star in a Star Trek episode? I mean, is this something that you think she'll continue to get her message across? Because she can't escape it if she is the
well,
governor.
she shouldn't come back while she's running.
Right. And hello, Gremlinton. Thank you for coming by. Hello. And he says hi to me in the chat and MIKEYLITO. Yes, I am getting closer to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for the
Yes, and
support.
everybody, please subscribe.
Thank you,
Subscribe,
everybody.
subscribe.
Thank you, MIKEYLITO. Thank you. And of course, Paul in Long Beach says MIKEYLITO or for president. Oh my gosh. Oh
First of all,
yes.
I wouldn't like it, and I don't think you would like it.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, what is she doing? um, okay. Darth Plato makes a good point. And this was so apparent in Picard with one of the characters. Is his name Santiago? What is the gentleman's name?
Yes, Santiago
Um,
Cabrera is the name of the actor.
he's this incredibly good looking man, right?
Yes, he plays Captain Rios. Okay, since we're going into Picard, how did his entire ragtag crew get into Starfleet? I think it was like what they said was like 2 years have passed since the end of season 1 of Picard, and now all of a sudden his entire ragtag crew is in Starfleet, including the Romulan that they just killed off, which he's coming back. So, I mean, why do we go through all of these things?
Yes. I thought that the immigration thing was ridiculous, but let him go.
Avery
Why?
Brooks needs to come back and punch Alex Kurtzman in the face.
Ooh. Well, Avery Brooks needs to come back, just period. I mean, I would relish seeing him. Maybe he does show up in Picard. We've seen Q, we're seeing a lot of people who here and by the way, Darth Plato does mention Cisco was actually mentioned in Picard, so maybe we will be seeing him. I love this. I love you, Darth Plato. Rrr Mmmm is too young to serve as POTUS. I agree.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm glad actually somebody said POTUS. Do you know that somebody actually sent a tweet to the POTUS Twitter account complaining about Stacey Abrams appearing on Star Trek? This
But
is how nutty Americans are.
it's not though, because people do get the impression that when they say president, they don't understand president of Earth. What if you're a normie and you're watching that? The 1 million viewers who someone had pointed out, and thank you for that, whoever you were. I think it was Ion who might have said about 1 million people might have watched this. They may not understand that this is, about another, time period. They may think it's the American presidency. They're not sure. I can understand people saying that it's they a bit misguided, but this is something to think about. And I think that, I'm going to be very, disturbed. Hello, Decory 99. Thank you for joining us. I personally will be very disturbed if I start to see more political candidates do this. And we already know she's going to be in season 5, MIKEYLITO. I mean, how do you think she's going to spin that? She's gotten all this publicity just from being in the series conclusion of season 4. If she doesn't win, do you think we'll see her again?
Oh, if she doesn't win, we'll definitely see her again. Absolutely. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure when the Georgia election is, but supposedly the reason that they won't cast her or use her again right now is because she's involved in the Georgia gubernatorial. But once that passes, it has to be this year, I would think. Yeah, this is an even year. It's probably this year. So after November, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Ion, I didn't realize it wasn't you. One of the chat members did mention that he thought that it was about a million people who might have watched it, but
Take the credit.
perpetuity, yes, into perpetuity, it's going to be hundreds of millions of people who will watch that because it's going to be on streaming forever. People will have access like we've never had access before. They'll turn it on, it'll start to play it. Oh yeah, let me check out this Discovery thing, and then they'll see that. Or some people who might say, well, I didn't know she was on there. They'll go ahead and watch it anyway. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's clear from what we've been seeing that the overall impression of her appearing is essentially campaign advertising more than anything else. And that in itself is a problem, because if now we're looking at shows that we love, IPs that we love, you and I like MIKEYLITO, our IPs,
Yes.
everybody in the chat's IP that we love is now going to be just solely used for political campaign. And, that's not what I think that we want our IPs to turn into.
Well,
This is
honestly, I call it new Trek in youth Trek. New Trek is not rewatchable. I've rewatched exactly one episode of New Trek. None of it from Discovery, and one episode from Star Trek Picard, and that's the episode where Picard went to visit Troy and Riker on their little home planet. And I only rewatched that once. I have not rewatched a single episode of New Trek other than that one. It's not rewatchable. There's nothing really interesting or anything that makes sense going on that I would want to watch it. And I'm only watching it because I'm hoping that it'll get better.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Darth Plato says Mark and Mindy advertised Walter Mondale. I seem to recall, and you probably are right about that, Darth Plato, many years ago. Dionysus Larson makes a very good point here. He says, I doubt she wants to win now. There's probably more opportunities and wealth as a mouthpiece for her now. And I could see her joining a lobbyist group here where
She has her SAG card.
she has her SAG card. Maybe she'll make more movies and try to influence others that way. And perhaps her political career, for her, she's thinking, you know what, maybe I should go down another route, which is perfectly fine. And best wishes to Stacey Abrams. As we've said, we have the utmost respect for this woman who's going after her dreams. And the same, we feel the same way about any politician out there. Go ahead, go after your dreams. We support all that. As I've discussed, we're talking about the show's decision to place a politician and political activist as her, cast as the president of Earth. Six Scale Mafia. Hello, Six Scale Mafia. Welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. We so appreciate it, Six Scale Mafia. You can find Six Scale Mafia on YouTube, so definitely check out that channel. They say Trek has always had prominent figures in their shows. With that said, I felt like it was almost like a commercial. And that's what I had issue with. I miss Trek. Can't stand DSC at all. I miss Trek. It did feel like a commercial. She came on and she was kind of smiling, but it did have a commercial feel. What do you think, MIKEYLITO? Did it feel like a commercial to you?
Like I said, to me, it was in your face. They didn't do extreme. Well, let's put it this way: close up was as close up as you and I look on the screen right now, only full screen. So, yeah, I definitely took it as definitely espousing a point of view, and deliberately espousing the point of view.
Exactly. And Ion says this will be a very dated show, but I don't think anyone really cares about Discovery or any other Star Trek. There is hardly any talk about it except sites dedicated to it, which I guess we are, right? What I'm suggesting, Ion, and I do absolutely think that you make a very good point about this. What I'm suggesting is, what they've done in this particular show is associate her with being the president of Earth. And for perpetuity, her name is always going to be associated with that catchphrase, those keywords. Some people are calling it prophetic. Maybe she's going for a higher office. Maybe she wants to run for something much bigger than the gubernatorial race, which is huge anyway in that state.
I can answer that. She plans on running for president. That's mentioned in one of the articles.
Oh my gosh. Dionysus Larson is making me laugh. Star Trek, I wish I knew how to quit you. Oh, you're making us laugh, and we love that. Darth Plato says people trade wealth for power. They never trade power for wealth. Good point, Darth
I
Plato.
should point out for my friend Paul that uh, Stacey Abrams does have one other credit. She narrated one episode of the ABC series Blackish.
Yes, she did. She certainly did do that. And people have talked about that, but it was a narration and we didn't see her face, right, MIKEYLITO?
That's correct.
And technically speaking, she was a narrator, it was a voiceover, and I think she might have even been nominated for an Emmy or won an Emmy or something of that degree. So thank you for pointing that out. Low Spec Linux Laptop sends us a penguin. Is that a penguin?
Yeah, it looks like to me.
Oh, well,
Might
hello,
even be
hello
my
to
shape.
Oh my goodness. Now, Ion says there is not one episode of Discovery that has any good meaning to it, like older Star Trek episodes like Measure of a Man. That had a point, something that made you think Discovery has done sadly. Well, Ion, yesterday on Sunday Brunch, I was discussing with all of you, if you were there, that they were talking about making the shows more episodic. But then someone pointed out that they've been saying that every season. So we shall see what happens with the writing of that. It's unfortunate that I miss the critical thinking in the episodes is what I miss too. So we all are starving for that. And I go back and I watch the older episodes as a result of this. And we have another comment from Six Scale Mafia. It's a shame because I've been a diehard Trekkie since the 80s. I have rewatched all series from the original series to ENT, which is ENT's Enterprise, more
Correct.
times than I can count. And Discovery is not capturing the spirit of Trek in my eyes. Yes. It really isn't. I don't think it has. I always call it Roddenberry's vision. I don't know if that's an official Trekkie description, but it doesn't have Roddenberry's vision to me. In fact, they are trying to push a vision, but I'm a little confused by what they're trying to project sometimes. And Darth Plato says Stacey Abrams on Star Trek Discovery is the same mindset as Obama being awarded Nobel Peace Prize before he was even sworn into office. Well, maybe. I don't know. But what I can say is, I'm concerned in the sense of we already know we're going to see her in season 5. How long is this going to go on for? This might be one of the first political candidates moves to be promoted in an IP. Guys, this is our IP. I mean,
And it's growing because we have Strange New Worlds to look
we have
forward to.
Strange New Worlds coming up. I did watch that trailer and I have said I liked the trailer, but nothing in it seems strange. Like what's supposed to be strange in it? Just between you and I wanted to be like, oh my gosh, that is so unusual. Then
It
then I
might
would
have a good plot. That would be strange.
I wanted to see that, thing that would kind of shake me a little bit. They did show some very nice landscape shots of it. And Ion says that Strange New Worlds is one they said that was going to be episodic. But everybody, are we going to see more politicians on Strange New Worlds? They've already opened up the door. Are we going to see it in Below Decks? Are we going to see it in everything that they put out for Star Trek now, where an activist, a political activist will be in there? She's legitimately a political activist. Are we going to see
I, I,
that?
I just want to say to Ion, I'm going to blow this name. I don't even have it in front of me, but I think it's Olatuni. Well, he was the director of the last episode, but he also said in an article in the last week that Discovery, in addition to Strange New World, that Discovery also was going to try and be more episodic in season 5. So I suppose that would be a good thing because these seasons with the grand scale that they've had, like the burn last year and the dark matter anomaly this year, they don't really work for me. And I guess Picard is going through the same thing now with season 2 and season 3 for Picard is already in the bag, and they're they're positively giddy about what they've done over the next 2 seasons. So God help us.
Six Scale Mafia continues to say, I hope Strange New Worlds follows the spirit of Trek, but we'll see. I need standalone episodes that I can rewatch decades from now. Great sci fi with moral dilemmas. Thought provoking content is what I want, and that is what so many of us want, Six Scale
Right.
Mafia.
That's
We
exactly
certainly
what we want.
Yes, and they could do it. They could stick to their agenda and still do that, but we're actually not we're deficient in both of those areas. They're kind of like neither here nor there for me. Until we saw Ms. Abrams appear in the episode. Um and Darth Plato is correcting himself 2 weeks after he was sworn in. Well, thank you, Darth Plato, for sending that in. Well, they sure could land the big story that they are doing now for sure. And Guagnar says Discovery is the exact opposite of Roddenberry's mandate. He thought humanity would have evolved past interpersonal conflicts, but that is all Discovery and Picard have. Okay. Um, yeah, this is very interesting. And I think that it's so hard to analyze Discovery for me because it feels like it's all over the place. And I
Yeah.
know that they kind of have a direction, but it doesn't feel that way to me. It feels very, like very kind of thrown together for me. Now, they have the potential and have the potential to do a lot with that cast. We could have seen things that we never saw before. They could have done things that they'd never done, but a lot of it is very repetitious. And in addition to it being repetitious, we're not actually getting that story that we'd like to get behind it. So go ahead and show us an anomaly, but give us that story that we crave, so that we know what's going on. There's only one episode that I saw recently, and I think it was from it may have been this season. It was the one where Tilly takes everybody on an away mission and she has to
Correct.
sort of train them. And I'm like, this feels like Star Trek. I'm like, and then of course she leaves like shortly after that. And I thought to myself, wow, she was actually turning into sort of like a normal character. Um, and she's gone. But I really liked that episode because it was almost as if she's saying, look, we all have to work together. So and they kind of learned by working together that they could do it. It felt like something maybe Star Trek Academy level, maybe not. But I really liked that episode. So how about that? They had one that felt like the Star Trek I know. Darth Plato says, I thought Roddenberry said that he didn't want the interpersonal in the show. Okay. Not that he thought we'd advance past it. Perhaps he had elements of both. I'm not entirely sure, but what I do know is that
I actually thought that he did say that at
okay.
the point in time in the century that Star Trek occurred that we had evolved past that. So
Well,
I kind of
that
agree
is
with you.
something to think about, Mikey. And before we wrap up this show, talking about do real life politicians belong in Star Trek, I would say I would prefer that they not be in Star Trek. This is my personal opinion. There are some of you out there who feel that they may or may not be good for the show, and that is fine. We welcome all opinions here. I think that if they continue to show politicians in Star Trek, why not show a more even spectrum of views of politicians? But that's how I view it. What do you think, MIKEYLITO? Do real
I,
life politicians belong in the Star Trek universe?
no, I definitely do not. I don't have a problem with the opinions that real life politicians espouse, but it does need to be more even handed. And as I said earlier, it is possible to use that for dramatic tension in doing their storytelling, but to just blatantly put somebody out there, I don't agree with that at all. I I was immediately upset as soon as I saw her face, and it's not because I don't like her; it's because of how I interpreted what the show was doing.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I certainly, none of us here have anything against Miss Abrams. We certainly do wish her well in her endeavors. And whatever she aspires to do, we support that as well for any politician. We're simply saying, I feel, and I'm sure you do, like they crossed the line with this one
Yes.
only because of the context that this character was placed. And of course, we didn't see anyone else from other views, which also made it feel very tunnel vision for me. So, guys, I do have to say thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson, because we are all goof people. My wonderful collaborator and moderator out there, and everybody in the chat. We so appreciate you showing up. MIKEYLITO, such a pleasure having this discussion with you,
Thank you.
getting all this stuff out, just letting it all come out because we're going to have to follow this up for season 5 because to see how this progresses, we certainly are just seeing something that was so different, just something we never would have guessed. They certainly surprised me. I know they surprised you. They surprised millions of fans out there in what we saw in so many ways. And I guess they're going to keep pushing the envelope. But MIKEYLITO, where can people find you?
Well, I do have a YouTube channel. It is not dormant. I finally started pushing out some streams, so they're infrequent, but you can find them at oops, MIKEYLITO
MIKEYLITO
Live
live on
and
YouTube.
on YouTube. It's on YouTube. If you can't find it on YouTube, I have a direct address. You can just go to MIKEYLITO.live and find the YouTube channel. And I also have my blog, which is at MIKEYLITO.blog, which is my leisure blog. So you guys can join me there. And you can always find me on Twitter at MIKEYLITO Live, just like the cup said. And if you have any complaints or you want to hear unusual opinions, because I have them, you can join me there.
Absolutely, everybody. So please check out MIKEYLITO live, his channel. Thank you, Six Scale Mafia. And thank you, everybody who showed up to the discussion, guys. MIKEYLITO live. He has his YouTube channel. Go ahead and check it out and watch his videos. They are fantastic. I watched them and I've enjoyed them. Subscribe to his channel.
Thank
And for
you.
those of you who enjoyed this show, please
Subscribe to
subscribe
this
to
channel.
Positive Fandom. Everybody, please subscribe. We so appreciate your support. I so enjoy talking to you all about the fandom and how we feel about different things and our different views. And everybody has different views, so we embrace that. As you see, we've talked,
Can I ask
and
a
everybody,
question?
yes.
Are you appearing on Toxic Femininity tonight?
Yes, I am going to be appearing on Toxic Femininity tonight. Guys, you can find me on Toxic Femmes tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on Midnight's Ed's channel with Lorena Creole, Mandy, and Nina Infinity, where we do all the talk of what's going on in the fandom. So, yes, I will be on that program tonight.
And if you
Sometimes
run
on
into Cameron, please tell him I said hi, even though he
he
has no
probably
idea who I am.
well, I will tell him you said hi. He probably will show up. Are you part of his Patreon, MIKEYLITO? Are you part of the Patreon?
No, I'm a senior citizen on a limited budget.
Oh, okay. Well, for certain, guys, please tune into MIKEYLITO's channel. I will be on Toxic Femme tonight. Cameron Pasha will probably be on the show with us.
Cool, I'll watch.
And also on Wednesdays and Thursdays, you can sometimes find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network on either Say What or Uncivilized Scoundrels. But you can also find me streaming with Lorena Creole as we're doing our Reach Review series live streams on Twitch. On Friday afternoons at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can find me on Midnight Edge in the morning with Tom and Andre, and of course, Cameron as well. And when they resume back, you can find me on the Burn Network, streaming with Robert Meyer Burnett. And on Sunday, you can find me on the Sunday Brunch Show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. My other live show as well. It's such a pleasure to see all of you tonight. I hope this day finds you well. Please subscribe to the channel. And on behalf of MIKEYLITO and myself, guys, remember as you are going through the galaxy out there to always be kind.
Be kind.